Support Narativ's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download. Hey everybody, welcome to Narativ Live. We are live in New York City late on a Friday night. We should have better things to do, but we are here because it's taken us a bit longer than normal to get this week's podcast up. But it's one you have to watch, you have to listen to. Did you know that all our podcasts are now available on any podcast app, including Spotify? Well, now you do, and you can check them out by just searching Narativ Live, Narativ Live. This week is a particularly important show. Last week, you heard from Steven Hoffenberg. We spent 30 minutes talking about what's been going on in the Jeffrey Epstein case and revealed and confirmed information about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell being spies, particularly for Israeli military intelligence. And what they did there was blackmail politicians and public figures in the United States and around the world in order to help Israel and other countries. Now, this week, we're staying on the topic. It's part 2 of that interview with Steve Hoffenberg about Jeffrey Epstein. But the stakes are so much higher this week. We are, I believe, witnessing the largest cover-up of the biggest political crime in history. And that does sound like an exaggeration, but in fact, it isn't when you really look at all the details. And I'm not just talking specifically about Jeffrey Epstein here. I'm talking about what we've seen this week from Bill Barr regarding Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Eric Prince. It's clear that the Attorney General, Bill Barr, is undertaking some sort of clearinghouse, clearing the decks, if you will, of all the cases and claims and crimes and investigations connected to Donald Trump. Roger Stone got lighter sentencing recommendations this week. Michael Flynn got a new prosecutor. Rudy Giuliani and Les Parnas, remember we loved them 3 weeks ago during the inauguration? They're not getting charged with anything. Rudy Giuliani now has a hotline to the Department of Justice so you can call in any dirt on Joe Biden he may find. And then there's Eric Prince. We're expecting this week to hear from the DOJ whether they'll be charging him for anything. But, don't hold your breath. That's not likely to happen. But the biggest of Barr's cover-ups involves Jeffrey Epstein, and we don't think this has been given enough attention. It's a tough case. People don't like to talk about child abuse and human trafficking. It's also about Israel. It's about spies. It's not something that's easily, fits into primetime news programming. But it's the most egregious of all the crimes related to Donald Trump. You can't get worse than human trafficking in my book. And what we're seeing here is that Bill Barr has done what is a very creative thing, quite honestly, from a legal perspective, very creative. But in reality, what he's done is he's killed the case. What he's done is he's moved the burden of the Epstein case to the U.S. Virgin Isles. Now, the U.S. Virgin Isles is part of the United States technically, but it's not really direct control of the United States, although he has a direct line of reporting to the Attorney General in the islands. She, the Attorney General, has suddenly woken up. She spent 18 years as a prosecutor there and did nothing about Jeffrey Epstein. Now she's awakened. Hey, woke AG. And she is filing today a 24-count indictment against the estate's trustees just today, or this week at least. The case itself is strong. I mean, let's face it, these guys, as we'll explain today, should not be running the estate. What doesn't make any sense to me is why the SDNY is not doing it themselves. Why is the Virgin Isles? Why is a separate protectorate, not really part of the United States, investigating this case, which is a case of huge significance, of espionage, of blackmail, of human trafficking against the United States? Why is it being farmed out to the U.S. Virgin Isles? And the most scary part of what's going on there is that it looks like because of the U.S. Virgin Isles action, what may happen is that the victims of the case may not get restitution. So that's what we're looking at today. My guest again is Steve Hoffenberg, Jeffrey Epstein's former business partner. He worked alongside Epstein for 9 years before spending 18 years in prison for the crimes they both committed. This is part 8 of The Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein. So that was really fun, YouTube viewers. It was just a tease because that wasn't even the start of the show for Periscope. I'm going to do it all again for you in just a minute. Thanks for trying, though. Thanks for joining us. We'll do a better job in part 2, or the redo.